Europe in the early 19th century was a continent engulfed in conflict. For over 2 decades, the Napoleonic Wars had ravaged the continent. The ambitious Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of France, had led his armies to victory across Europe, redrawing maps and challenging the established order. His military genius and unyielding ambition were unmatched. After a series of stunning victories, Napoleon's empire stretched from the Iberian Peninsula to the borders of Russia. However, his ambition ultimately proved to be his downfall. The invasion of Russia in 1812 ended in disaster, weakening Napoleon's forces and emboldening his enemies. Forced to abdicate in 1814, Napoleon was exiled to the island of Elba. However, the embers of his ambition were far from extinguished. Sensing an opportunity, Napoleon escaped Elba in 1815 and returned to France. His return ignited a wave of support, and he quickly amassed a new army. Europe once again braced for war. The news of Napoleon's return sent shockwaves through the courts of Europe. The Seventh Coalition, a fragile alliance of European powers, was hastily reassembled to confront the resurgent emperor. The stage was set for a decisive confrontation that would determine the fate of Europe. This confrontation would unfold on the fields of Waterloo. The Battle of Waterloo would pit Napoleon against 2 of his most formidable adversaries, Arthur Wellesley, Duke of Wellington, and Gebhard Leberecht von Blücher, Field Marshal of the Prussian army. These 3 military titans represented the pinnacle of strategic brilliance and battlefield experience. Napoleon Bonaparte, the Emperor of the French, was a master tactician and a charismatic leader. He was known for his speed of maneuver, his ability to inspire his troops, and his unwavering belief in his own destiny. Napoleon's military genius had humbled the armies of Europe, making him a legend in his own time. Facing Napoleon was Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington. A British general of exceptional skill and determination, Wellington was renowned for his meticulous planning, his defensive prowess, and his ability to maintain discipline among his troops even in the most challenging circumstances. Wellington had honed his skills during the Peninsular War against Napoleon's marshals, earning a reputation as a formidable opponent. The final member of this triumvirate was Gebhard Leberecht von Blücher, Field Marshal of the Prussian army. A veteran of numerous campaigns, Blücher was known for his aggression, his tenacity, and his unwavering commitment to the defeat of Napoleon. Although his army had suffered defeats at the hands of the French, Blücher's spirit remained unbroken and he was eager to renew the fight. The stage was set for a clash of titans, a battle that would test the mettle of these legendary commanders and determine the future of Europe. The battlefield at Waterloo, located in modern-day Belgium, was a gently undulating landscape dominated by 2 key features: the village of Waterloo itself, which lay to the south, and a north-south ridge that ran east of the village. This ridge would prove crucial in the battle's unfolding. Wellington, commanding the Anglo-allied army, positioned his forces along this ridge. He recognized the defensive advantages it offered. The ridge provided a natural barrier, shielding his troops from direct French artillery fire and affording them a clear view of the battlefield below. Wellington anchored his right flank on the fortified farmhouse of Hougomont and his left flank on the village of Papelotte. Napoleon, leading the French army, arrayed his forces opposite Wellington's lines. He aimed to break through the Allied centre, dividing their forces and achieving a decisive victory. Napoleon believed that a swift and overwhelming attack would shatter the Allied resolve and secure him a triumphant return to power. To achieve this, Napoleon divided his forces into 3 main elements. Marshal Ney, known as bravest of the brave, was entrusted with leading the attack on the Allied centre. Napoleon also positioned a strong force under the command of Comte d'Erlon to assault the Allied left flank. Finally, a diversionary attack was to be launched against the Allied right flank at Hougomont, aiming to draw away reserves and weaken the centre. The scene was set for a titanic struggle, a clash of arms that would determine the fate of nations. The fate of Europe hung in the balance, resting on the shoulders of the soldiers arrayed across the battlefield. As the sun rose on June 18, 1815, the fate of Europe hung in the balance. The air was thick with tension and anticipation as the 2 armies prepared for the onslaught. The sound of drums and bugles echoed across the battlefield, signaling the commencement of one of the most pivotal battles in human history. The battle began with a massive French artillery bombardment aimed at softening up the Allied lines. The earth shook as cannons roared, sending showers of earth and metal tearing through the Allied ranks. However, Wellington's troops, sheltered behind the reverse slope of the ridge, weathered the storm with remarkable resilience. The first major French infantry assault targeted the chateau of Hougoumont on the Allied right flank. The French believed that capturing Hougoumont would weaken the Allied line and pave the way for a breakthrough. However, the British defenders, supported by their Hanoverian allies, fought with extraordinary tenacity, repelling wave after wave of French attacks. The fighting at Hougoumont was fierce and bloody, a microcosm of the larger battle raging around it. The chateau, once a picturesque country estate, was transformed into a smouldering ruin. Despite their best efforts, the French were unable to dislodge the defenders, and Hougoumont remained a thorn in their side throughout the day. Meanwhile, in the center of the battlefield, Napoleon launched his main attack against the Allied lines. Marshal led a massive cavalry charge intending to break through the weakened Allied center and exploit the gap. The French cavalry, renowned for their élan and ferocity, surged forward like a tidal wave.